Let's talk botched ink and laser tattoo removal. Now, as more people that do laser tattoo removal are starting to come into doing permanent makeup tattoo removal, as more clients are needing removal, there's a lot of misconceptions because as it's worth you realizing that probably only about 5% of laser techs actually have any great knowledge or experience and specialism with permanent makeup removal. And a lot of those are indeed permanent makeup techs themselves. And I have the pleasure of bringing to you a video with three ladies who I've known for a number of years. They're not only botched ink technicians, but they're permanent makeup technicians and laser tattoo removal technicians specializing in permanent makeup. And this is such a good talk. I learnt loads, and I'm sure you're going to learn loads too, because this it's good. Right. There's a lot of really good content, high value content that we're sharing. It's a little 45-50 minute video. It's split into two sections. You'll see why. There's notes in your training manual, and meet you on the other side where I'll just kind of go over some of the notes and some of the things that we were discussing. But listen, enjoy it. It's a great video. Okay, so let's thank you, ladies, everybody, for joining me for this talk about botched ink and laser tattoo removal. We're going to predominantly be talking about eyebrows here, so just not confuse anything. It's mainly going to be eyebrows. And let's do a little round of who everybody is. I'm Lisa from Botched Ink. You can do a little bit more expanding than that, but I'm Lisa from Botched Ink. Do you want to go around? Do you want to start, Claire?
Hi, I'm Claire from Attin Sensor in Grantham. I also train for Botched Ink, and I have been doing removal for about 7 years, I think. I did my removal training with Lisa originally before Botched Ink, and I trained in laser about 5 years ago.
Yeah. Do you do it predominantly for permanent makeup or a bit of both?
I would say for permanent makeup, I pretty much use Botched Ink, but it does depend what's in there, which I'm sure we'll come to later on. Yeah.
Kelly?
I'm Kelly Fellows from Kelly Louise Aesthetics. I've trained with Botched Ink, been using Botched Ink since 2017, 2018, and I've trained in laser this year, so just to combine the two, but been doing permanent makeup since 2017 and use Botched Ink for all that reason.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. And Ruth?
I'm Ruth Turnbull. I own Ruby Red Aesthetics, based in Newcastle and Sunderland. I can't remember when I trained with you, Lisa. It was quite a few years ago now, wasn't it? I trained in laser around about the same sort of time, yeah. So it's been interesting to see the different results that you get from different
Ruth,
systems.
are you doing predominantly laser tattoo removal on permanent makeup, or do you do body tattoo?
Yeah, I do.
Well?
Just for permanent makeup. I don't really advertise it for body art. Sometimes if my own client asks.
How about you, Kelly?
I do body removal with laser, and obviously just with Botched Ink, it's just permanent makeup only, but I've been combining the two just for permanent makeup.
Exactly. So here's my really good first question. This one come to me last minute. This video is going to clearly be seen by clients as well as permanent makeup techs, as well as laser techs as well. So it's kind of an all-inclusive video, kind of sharing information for everybody. So as more clients are seeking laser removal for their microblading or PMU eyebrows, potentially because they don't realize that there are other non-laser methods, when booking a laser removal treatments, what questions can a client ask to make sure the laser tech knows the difference when removing cosmetic tattoo pigments? Anybody want to jump in?
Okay. I would say that they need to ask for pictures of their work on permanent makeup removal, and results, healed work as well. So how have they healed? initially I'd want to know, are they doing a gentle treatment with a laser, avoiding blistering, bleeding, you don't want anything too invasive on the face. I'd also want to know just generally how long they've been working with a laser, what training they've done, obviously if they're insured, have a license if they need one in that particular area.
So many times for body tattoo removal, you hear of blistering and things. Ruth, Kelly, what does that mean when that kind of happens?
I would say that they've obviously gone in with a too high setting to start with. When it comes to me and whether they're having permanent makeup removal or body tattoo, I will do 3 test shots, and those will all be starting from the very lowest setting and moving up very slightly at a time. If I'm getting the results when they come back, once they've healed, if I'm getting the same results on the lowest setting, there's no need to go for the higher setting.
Go for the higher setting.
Results, whereas I think a lot in the industry go for the higher settings just to feel like they're getting a really good result straight away, when it's just really not needed. And if they're getting blisters, they're more than likely have gone in too strong to start with.
How about you, Rose?
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think this is where it comes down to the quality of their training. What clients are like, they want that immediate result, they want results yesterday, when with removal, slowly but surely is the way to go. And yeah, it's just far too high effluence, and it's really, really bad for the skin. Should always start at the lowest setting.
How can you were talking about patch testing there, Kelly. How can a client know what a tech's doing when they're doing a patch test? What does that mean to the client? I have actually heard of laser techs not doing patch tests. What would you say to that?
I would say if your technician who you booked in with is not requested that you have a patch test first, that's a bit of a red flag. I would request that you have a patch test, and then also maybe speak to your technician and say, they won't know specifically the levels that they need to start off on, or the fluence of what they will be using, but they could request, are we doing a couple of different patch tests, which may be 4 shots of each energy level, just to verify how it reacts in the skin, so that when that client comes back, if we're getting the same results on the lower setting, and that's where we need to start. We don't need to go with a higher fluence just because people want that hard hitting sort of first session.
Do you feel that a lot of laser techs who aren't also permanent makeup techs are getting the right training or knowledge of working on permanent makeup pigments?
There's definitely a lot of training out there that doesn't cover enough information, not only on body tattoos and how to work with the skin and keep the integrity of the skin right, but I don't think a lot of body tattoo artists who may have just started with laser would know how the pigments for permanent makeup may react differently to a body tattoo ink. And it's very different, because obviously we know how the colour can present differently, and the colours that will be in there, as opposed to doing a black body tattoo, will be different. Who looks like they've got black brows or grey brows, but when you actually go in, you'll see that there's a lot of red present, or maybe a lot of yellow under the skin once that black has gone.
See, Ruth, I mean, that's the bit that I'm seeing. Like on so many people after they've had a laser patch test, that that's then revealed red.
What's under what's in the skin?
Ruth, what would you? I mean, should the laser tech know about this?
Well, yeah, they should know, but that's the thing when if you don't have the like a permanent makeup background, and you only have a tattoo, like a body art tattoo background, and some people don't have either background. Some people say, I'm going to be a laser technician, and they just think a tattoo is a tattoo is a tattoo, and all pigments are basically the same, and they just don't have that understanding of it at all. Iron oxide reacts really differently to carbon, but and you'll find that people just want, you know, it's the cheapest basically. You know, they'll just walk into their local tattoo shop, you know, and try to educate clients that they actually need to be going to you know, someone who does have a permanent makeup background, so that you know, they can best treat them. But yeah, that's because it's educating the public, really. I think that's what it boils down to.
So Claire, what would you say to a client who's been to a laser tattoo removal company, don't matter who they are, permanent makeup or traditional tattooing, and they've had the patch test and it's revealed red, but the tech hasn't explained it?
I've had a few people think that that's just that their skin's red, like it's damaged or it's scarring or something. So they need to understand that actually all it's done is remove the carbon, the black out of the pigment, and it's left the underlying red. Because we know that browns are made from red, yellow, and black. And all you've done is take that carbon away, and it's left a very bright red, which can actually be quite difficult to remove with laser. I mean, you need to have the right filters for your laser and the right machines. Not everybody has that filter or the knowledge to know how to treat that. Depending on the permanent makeup pigment that's in there and what carrier it's in, which obviously I know you addressed through your masterclass, it can be really stubborn, the red, with certain pigments. Others come out, you know, really quite easily. But I would not carry on with laser at that point. I would go in with botched ink and try and get those funky colours out first before treating the carbon.
Yeah. So Kelly, you've been putting up some great posts on Instagram, like that you, when you do a patch test, if the black is just going straight away and there's nothing underneath, then great, isn't it?
It is great, but it's not always the case. So this is always encourage a patch test, because if we can see red is present, and once that black has gone, we know that really there's a lot of red in the skin, and that needs to come out, because the client's going to walk away gone from the blue brows or the black brows to then having the red brows. And like Claire just mentioned, some clients think, oh, it's because my skin's red. It's not, it's the pigment that's sitting within the skin still. So I tend to then talk to the clients, and we'll discuss what their goal is. Some people are actually happier to have a little bit of red in than they have the blue, but because it's easier to cover. But I will then explain that we need to move forward with saline at this point, because saline's going to botched ink is going to pull the pigments as a whole, as a group. We're just taking the red or taking the blue or the yellow as such. So this is why I feel that it's always good to test, so you can give your client the full facts of what's going on. They can understand.
It's that whole thing. I mean, I'm a complete believer in informed consent.
Yes.
You know, for a client to walk out after having a laser removal or come into us
and not know that they're going to get the red brows, that's
but I mean, no, coming to us as a botched ink tech after having laser with bright red, bright orange, bright green, bright yellow brows, because somebody hasn't explained to them, or because they didn't know. The thing to just quickly jump in here, and this is just for the video to kind of comment, so many people don't realize that laser tattoo removal, this is so typical. I'm going to pause this for a second. I've got something at the door. Won't be 1 second. How typical is that? It wasn't even for me. You take it for next door. The bit to say that's good to say, oh no, let me just start again. The bit that's good to say for the video is so many body tattoos aren't brown. You just don't see brown body tattoos. Even when you have a British bulldog, it's normally black and grey rather than brown. So this is kind of why laser hasn't traditionally, I'm just saying laser hasn't traditionally learned what the removal process is on brown, you know. And now so many people have been having brown pigments, brown brows that just don't disappear, or they didn't like them or whatever. And And then that's when it's kind of interesting how laser up until about, tell me if your thoughts on this, laser removal techs up until, I believe, only a couple of years ago, wouldn't touch brows.
Yeah, I heard that as well. Yeah.
Because this is my view, because we as permanent makeup techs traditionally use permanent makeup pigments that laser just wouldn't work on. I'm talking about your iron oxides and fading and stuff like that. And I believe as we've changed our pigments to the more tattoo-like pigments, that's what's enabled laser to come in.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of.
I think there's also I think there's also an influx of businesses, whether they be, you know, beauty therapists or tattooists or whatever, simply buying these lasers as well. And because we all know that the you know, it's not particularly regulated industry at all. So it's so easy to buy them, and they just think, oh, it's just like another string to me bow. So we'll you know, and there's been so many bad brows about as well in the last few years. So it's like, oh well, you know, we'll get onto that as well, and we'll start making some money, extra income from lasering all these brows. And
So,
but the removal is just as bad as the bad brows that they're trying to get rid of.
so how do you then feel? We all know with permanent, non-laser permanent removal, there are some trick photos that people are showing. The immediate photos I'm talking about, where someone that's having a glycerine, oh gosh, what's that? Acid glycolic.
Oh, right, okay.
Someone's having a glycolic laser tattoo removal, and the blood's being turned brown by the glycolic, and then you're wiping it and showing, oh, look at the pigment coming out, whereas it's actually brown blood.
Yeah.
But there's tricks with laser before and after photos as well, isn't there? I'm talking about.
Well, I think a lot of people,
they
show the frosting, don't they? Because you know, it'll produce frosting on the skin, which looks like it's immediately pulled all the pigment out, but within 10 minutes that frosting's gone. So you know, but if you get a photo straight away, oh, it looks great, you know, before and after.
It does, but
yeah, it's not true.
You don't see the red straight away either. So initially with removal, you can, if it's more orange, you can, that neon orange, you can kind of see that off a patch test, and you can see what's present, but you don't see how vibrant that red is going to be. So if you have a slight little bit of red, you know it's there, and then once it's healed within a week or two, that's when they're more vibrant, and you see what red is.
How disappointing are these clients going to be?
Very. I mean, this is why they need to be well informed of what the situation is and what they're going to end up with by having the laser, if they don't know what's in the skin first.
So yeah, it's completely unrealistic expectations. That's the thing, and it makes our job a lot harder, because someone's seen some before and afters on Instagram or whatever, and then they were, why isn't mine like that? And it's, well, because theirs isn't like that either. It's just,
but that's a really poor thing for our industry to be showing. Absolutely. Really, isn't it?
100%.
And I'm not just talking the laser industry now, I'm talking about our industry.
In general,
As more permanent makeup techs are becoming laser techs, they're then showing these immediately after photos of, look what one laser session's done, this is straight after.
Yep. It's going to cause down the line, I think, with people making claims. You know, if I went in somewhere not expecting to walk out with bright red eyebrows, as a uneducated person, I would be not happy at all. You know, it's just a bit of a ticking time bomb, really.
It is. And it's just such a shame that I kind of do feel, though, that permanent makeup removal should be within the realm of permanent makeup techs. Because we know the pigments. When you have true laser removal specialists who really know their stuff, brilliant, you know, because they know this, maybe they've got 2 or 3 different machines and stuff like that, because they do all different kinds of stuff. I'm not really knowing too much about that. But if someone completely understands permanent makeup pigments, then remove them. You know, it's just
out there, because not enough people that specialists that have the equipment and the knowledge. Generally, it's just not, and those people are obviously going to charge a certain price for that as well.
I mean, I'd say I spoke about this once before, that I kind of think that the amount of people that are laser techs that are also permanent makeup knowledgeable techs is probably less than 5%.
Absolutely.
Of the
Absolutely.
laser techs out there.
Yeah,
You know?
I think like we've mentioned, a lot of people are just jumping on the bandwagon at the moment and thinking we'll add this service because, you know, it's an extra income. And the last 5 years we have seen a lot more people are having permanent makeup, and there is a lot more people with botched brows that
Well, I've
help.
seen you do really well with removal, botched ink and laser. I mean, financially, I'm talking about it. You
Yeah,
know?
well, I mean, I see multiple botched ink clients a week. I always have, and I good results, and that's why I do. But it's always about telling the client from the start and giving them realistic expectations of what they're going to get from the treatment. And I think, you know, with laser, it's not a quick fix. There's a lot more that goes with it, and that's why combining the two treatments together and knowing what you're dealing with from the start, client is dealing with is, you know, is making sure that technician's informed, right?
So most body tattoos, and unless they're highlighted areas, don't have titanium dioxide in them.
Yeah.
A lot of permanent makeup pigments, particularly the medium and the lighter brows, have a fair amount of titanium dioxide in them.
Yeah.
How does a laser deal with that? What happens?
Well, it oxidizes it and turn it darker. But at the same time, it is eventually going to be treatable. But obviously, if you've got something lighter and then you hit it with a laser and it goes darker, that can be quite devastating for the client. So again, it's just about informing them that that can happen and probably will happen, and you've just got to go with it, which is why it's better, in my opinion, to do some saline beforehand and then go in with laser.
Does red change colour? Does some reds go darker?
Yeah, you can flip a red, so you can flip a red present and make that go darker, but not all reds will flip, so you won't. And that's why I would always start with saline to reduce that happening. And because as saline pools as a whole and botching pools as a whole, it's less likely to be more of the lighter colours present or be as strong when you do then go in with a laser.
So that leads me on to yellow. We're all asking, because we're now hearing a growth of stories of clients being left with neon yellow eyebrows. Clearly, we now know that obviously with botched ink and other types of saline methods, although obviously botched ink, we're removing all the colours at the same time, not just one at a time. But clients that are left with neon yellow eyebrows can be helped with botched ink, but we still now need the 3 or 3 sessions because that pigment's been taken deeper and potentially clouded with some scar tissue, depending on how, we'll talk about that in a minute, how long the tech left between sessions. But what's going wrong with all these clients being left with these neon yellow eyebrows?
It's just a guess, because I don't know 100%, but I presume, obviously the titanium dioxide, and there's a lot of yellow put into these pigments, and I presume that they are carbon based, but I don't really know. But I've got a couple.
Yeah, there are a few certain yellows that just won't go, and they're
just won't shift.
bright yellow.
I've got two ladies at the minute who've had they've had previously, before they came to me, laser removal, and it is absolutely like you say, neon yellow. And we've done a couple of botched ink. To be honest with you, it's lightened a little bit, but not that much really.
Probably, I mean, because they've had laser now, you probably need to work deep.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's they have been scarred by the lasers. You can tell it's just been put on far too high a setting as well.
So we'd now need to do pointillism or something on that to just get
Yeah.
that pigment moving.
Yeah.
But again, it's down to people hitting these colours and not explaining to the client that laser has difficulty with certain colours.
Yeah.
So I suppose most people have got like say a YAG laser, the like a 1064 nanometer head, and light colors. It's just not going to touch it. It's just really not going to. In my experience, it's not going to touch it.
So if you've then got a client, is it worth then educating a client that if the Lasertec's only got a 1064 head, so 1064 head, that doesn't sound right.
I know.
To not use that tech for their
because if they have got colour present or any lighter colours, any red, any yellow, they're not going to be able to do anything with it. It's not going to touch it. You would need saline for the lighter colours. Like Ruth mentioned, it can lighten them a little bit, but what I find anyway is any of those lighter colours, and I have got the colour head that I can use, but again, I don't find that makes a massive difference. Saline is a much better option for any lighter colour.
So, I mean, you said something on one of your Instagram posts that the minute that you see red, you just go straight onto botched ink.
Yeah,
it's just...
Some of my clients will be like, they just want the blue gone, but I will explain to them, if we start with laser, the trouble is it will be harder to move that red then. So if you want a quicker process and you want to keep the integrity of the skin, as it is and improve it, then the better option is botched ink. And what I generally get as well, I don't know if you find it with microblading clients in particular, they're already quite scarred from the So I always get their skin in a better condition before we even start laser, because if they've got that much scarring from the microblading, I don't then want to go in with laser as well. So I want to get it a couple of sessions, 2 to 3 sessions of the saline first. That improves the quality of the skin. We see hair regrowth. We see the skin looking smoother, looking much better. We're pulling.
I think that's the bit that since botched ink come out that's been interesting, is most people didn't used to consider that removal improved the skin quality.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen it on many a client.
You're effectively microneedling at the same time, so as long as you're not working too deeply, and you're producing more collagen. So it's going to do that.
So what's it like? We've spoken about scarring then, but when someone's got pretty deep and saturated pigment, what does laser think of that, Claire?
I just find it's a lot more difficult to get out. Not so much the saturation, but the depth. If it's really deep, if it's been dug right into the dermis, find you need something like botched ink to help pull it to the surface first.
And that's what's so wicked, isn't it? Because botched ink's bringing it up close and making laser have an easier job. I've always said that.
Body tattoos, when they've been done by perhaps an apprentice or something, and they've been put in so deep, treating it with laser is quite difficult. You can do it, it just takes so much longer.
Yeah, I agree.
So we've spoken about combining treatments, and I like always, I think to future-proof ourselves as removal techs, combination treatments are the way to go. And however, if you're not, if a permanent makeup tech only does non-laser removal, you can keep on doing. The only time I find it's a shame if a permanent makeup tech doesn't know a laser tech that they can work with is if all that we've got left is black. That's when I think it's a shame to just keep on battering the skin when laser could just zap that, because we've got all the other colors out. It gives the client so when someone comes to you for laser removal, this is the bit that I don't think people talk about or understand properly. How many treatments, right? Because they always seemed, why do they think that laser's just one hit?
This is the pictures of them disappeared.
Yeah, yeah.
But laser is not quicker. It is not quicker. If you
It
just
isn't.
use laser on its own, it is, in fact, it might even be longer because you've got the colours that you can't touch with laser. So it's just a myth. Laser is not quicker.
Mm-hmm. But the price might be cheaper and the treatment's quicker.
That's why I
Yeah.
charge both of my removal treatments at the same, because I don't
Mhm.
I'm choosing just on price. I want us to go for what's best for them, not
Yeah.
because it's
What's
cheap.
best. So when is it old school that laser techs were taught to, you could have another session after 4 weeks? Where did that come about?
I have no
I
idea
think
where this came from.
That's
it's
scary.
probably because it's the normal skin renewal cycles round about sort of 26 to 34 days or something. So I've had a lady who had been getting laser treatments every 4 weeks, and her skin is an absolute mess, like really, really, really bad, to the point where I've actually didn't treat her because I wasn't even sure that I could improve it.
Yeah. Because the skin just, I mean, when I very, very first started doing botched ink, saline tattoo removal, botched ink wasn't even considered. I was actually taught every 4 weeks with non-laser. And I mean, I'm one of these techs that always keeps on asking my clients what happened during healing and everything like that. And I spotted that the client's skin coped for 2 goes, didn't cope on the 3rd go. And what she not ended up with, but what kind of happened was the inflammation healing hung about. That's what happened. And fortunately, I knew what to do to help that. But not so many people would, and people start putting the wrong things on. Inflammation healing, when the skin gets a little bit raised, and that kind of potentially takes a month or 2 to settle down. You haven't actually caused scarring, but that's exactly the point you could.
I think also a lot of people don't understand how laser works. The fact that the laser's just making the pigment molecules smaller, so your body deals with it. So the longer you give the body to deal with it, the better. It's actually more cost effective for your client. You've got less damage. It's just around better.
I totally agree with that. People think that laser removal, the laser just hits the pigment and it just disappears. They don't understand that it's actually just shattering the pigment into a smaller particle that's going to be, your body's going to remove. And like you say, it's obviously going to take. That doesn't happen immediately. And trying to explain that to people as well. Again, just educating your
that's
clients.
The interesting bit, because with laser, I know that your extremities take longer to absorb pigment, and it's also down to your diet or immunity system.
Yeah.
How good is the face at removing pigment after laser?
Ooh. That's a good one. I'm going to give one of those answers. It varies from person to person because, of course, it varies on the skin quality, the saturation, the color of the pigment. So I'm going to say I don't know. that's my best answer at the moment.
No, because it's not an extremity, and skin on the seems to heal really quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Lymph.
Yeah, I haven't personally haven't had anyone who's, I thought, oh my God, this has taken ages and ages. But then I wonder if that's because I've used botched ink as well. Because on the face, I've never just gone in with laser. I don't know.
See, I mean, I first knew when I was trialing botched ink about the combining treatments, because it's actually in the botched ink training, and I'm going to be saying this, we're revamping the course at the moment. In the botched ink training, one of the models that I worked on, the older lady with the blonde hair that I worked on, she had 2 or 3 sessions of botched ink with me. Really, really deep scarred microblading. It was not nice. And then I rang her up a good while later and said to her, can I book you in for another botched ink session? And she said, no. She said, I've done it with laser. She said, it's all gone now. And I thought, and the laser guy was so thrilled that she'd had 3 saline sessions and it didn't work. And then laser come along and took all the credit, because all it was black. If you go back and look at that video of her, it's just black pigment. So that's how come I knew all them years ago, like, that laser will take the bloody credit. Sorry, didn't swear. Laser will take the credit for removing the pigment after a botched ink treatment, because we've made it so much easier bringing it up to the surface. I have to say that other types of non-laser removal don't bring up pigment as well as botched ink does.
Right. I haven't used any, so I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. No, because some just remove it from the surface. Some just remove the pigment from the layer it gets into.
Okay.
Whereas botched ink actually floats up more. So that's how come it can go deeper. So, I mean, the bits that I kind of really wanted to talk about today was that whole thing about clients' expectations not being told about that, those immediately after, oh my gosh, photos of look at it all gone. I mean, I'm loving seeing some of the botched ink tech photos where you see a client with really dark eyebrows and then a couple of sessions of botched ink and then hit it with laser and you've got a way lighter with far less weird colours. How do you find that?
I've experienced that of late, and I did actually do a recent post on that where you can see that the brows were quite blue. We had 2 botched ink and they then went to a much the opacity of the blue was much lighter, and then we did the laser and it more or less pulled it all out, but then she wasn't left with the funky colours underneath. And that botched ink has done the work in the first 2 sessions. So it definitely helps by working them together, and you can see that people just see those instant changes though, don't they? And they think, oh, that's because you've had a session of laser, but they're not always fully understanding that saline has done the work first.
But then to also share, sorry Claire, go on.
It's a good year's worth of removal, whatever method you use. Often more as a minimum. People aren't aware that it's going to,
especially if the client wants to have their brows tattooed again.
And most do. Most, you're taking that off, that they're going to feel naked and they're going to want it done. So you have to do it right, and they have to have that heal time, because otherwise the skin's going to have no place for new brows. You're not going
to. This lady that I knew years ago, she had a tattoo on her wrist of her ex-partner's name. She'd had that, it was in black, and she'd had it laser removed. I don't know what happened during the laser, and clearly I didn't see the skin afterwards. But she completely said to me that his name had gone. Right. So she was thrilled. And then years later, she decided to get her arm blacked out. You know, where you get a blackout arm tattoo. So the whole arm was tattooed as a band in black. And he came back because the skin wouldn't take the pigment again. It's kind of, it's all about preserving the skin quality, isn't it? It's no point removing pigment and leaving the client, especially if you're going to be the person that's going to tattoo them again.
What used to happen to me, so say if they thought they were going to get a quicker result with laser, they'd come to me, they'd do a couple of botched ink, and then they'd talk to somebody and think that, oh, I'm going to go and get laser, and then they come back with their skin in a really bad situation where it's going to make it hard. Then you're going to probably look at more permanent makeup sessions to get the pigment to stay. Your skin's that point.
So to deal with this, I'm all about recognizing what's going on in the industry and how do we deal with it to make it better. And I'm kind of, as we've been talking, wondering, do we not have, there's going to be now loads of permanent makeup techs who want to team up with a botched ink tech and a laser tech. Yeah, a
Right.
botched ink tech that is a laser tech or a laser specialist. You
Yeah.
know, that we can actually kind of endorse, kind of thing, somehow. But I really do think that that would be a really cool thing to get a database started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For people
The
who,
bit that I hate, this is the bit that I hate, is when the client then feels that they're stuck with the black pigment might be taken, say the black pigment's really deeply buried, really deep, and we've got all the other funky colors out, but this particular black is being difficult, and it's either due to scar tissue or one of the facts that it's one of those pigments in the film forming carrier ingredients that I talk about in the masterclass. But basically that client doesn't know where to go for laser, and a tech doesn't know a laser tech. And the bit that's always a shame is to leave a client in the lurch with no one to recommend to. Because to put the client out onto the open market of finding a laser tech to do their brows is not nice.
no.
So I think it would actually be really quite cool to start to build that database. I mean, clearly you guys will then get really busy. It's not really a problem with that though, is there?
No,
No.
definitely not.
So I mean, that is kind of a really nice plan, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
and then I got no problem at all if you've got laser techs who really know their stuff with permanent makeup removal too.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not just talking about the UK, I mean like America and Canada and Australia, just so it's a really nice collaboration.
Yeah. And clients the best results, and it's going to give us the best. So it's a win-win, isn't it?
It's a win-win. It's a win-win because so many times, you know, like the skin treatments, people combine specialities, don't they?
Yeah.
You know, but what's been interesting that you guys have been saying is that you learn how to do the laser removal training, and but you're doing so well on it that you do enough removal on laser on eyebrows. You know, you just kind of, that's kind of really cool. And I have to say as well, Ruth, I know we said this off camera earlier, but your background is wonderful. It's so nice. I'm stuck in this at the moment. But so we're going to kind of wrap up. How did we do for timing? That was quite good.
Yeah, quarter.
So any other tips, talking to fellow techs or talking to clients? Anything that you'd like to say that we haven't kind of discussed, or to re-go over, just as any comments?
I think we carry on.
I've covered most, but I would just illustrate that when talking to clients, just give them a plan, like a sort of timeline period, and make it realistic. Like give them the options so that we start this journey because we're doing Saline, because, and this is going to give us this and why, you know, and make sure they understand why it's important to do this first. And it means that further down the line, if they do want new brows, it's going to mean that it's an easier job to do, and they're going to have longer
just like you would with any aesthetic treatment. I mean, I really do think that removal is kind of like an aesthetic treatment for the treatment plan.
Yeah,
because you've got to know about the skin, and you've got to know about, you know, the healing cascade, and you've got, you know, but where it's difficult is explaining that to clients and keeping it in a format that clients understand. They're not going to understand a lot of the terms that we use. And also, as we know, a lot of clients don't listen as well sometimes, you know, or it's hard
because
for them
they're after quick results.
Yeah, exactly.
And unfortunately, people promise them quick results.
Yeah. That's it. And I mean, you know, that takes you out of the whole thing about the, you know, we desperately need the industry to be regulated. But you know, it's just informing the client, and like Kelly was saying, you know, maybe putting that treatment down in black and white so they can refer to it, and you know, this is the stage that we're at, and also not saying exactly where we're going to be as well, because as we know, we can't always absolutely predict it. You know, sometimes things happen and we think, oh, I wasn't expecting
let's
that.
after 3 sessions, let's revisit the plan?
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Claire?
Yeah, and also the healthier they are in themselves, the better the treatment's going to be. They
Yeah.
need to be looking after their skin. If their skin's good
Yeah.
canvas, removal will be better. So they need
Not
to
All
using
types of removal will be better. Mm-hmm.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah. But this, oh yeah, oh, good question. Just thought of a good question. Right. You know, I've been talking about Botched Ink Revive. Botched Ink, so to use a session or two of Botched Ink as brow maintenance, potentially you did this work, okay? But now you've done 2 or 3 sessions over however many years. And you know, if you do, and this is a good brow, this is a nice brow. But to be able to do a session or 2 of color lifting to get rid of some of that old pigment will give you more room to carry on doing your hair strokes and ombre brows in your lovely, delicate work. And the reason that I'm saying that Botched Ink's really good at that is we're getting all of the colors out. We're not just getting, so am I right in saying that laser wouldn't be an ideal thing? Because if you've got nice brows that have just got too saturated, you're going to end up potentially revealing funky colors again, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just that, it's the potential damage to the skin as well that you're not going to get. You know, with Botched Ink, like I was saying before, you're effectively microneedling as well. So you know, you're improving that. So yeah, I would say Botched Ink definitely over laser. Yeah.
Yeah. Emergency removal with laser.
Oh,
No.
I've seen a
No.
video of it. I won't be doing it.
Wow.
I was really quite shocked by it, and I'm
Yeah.
not particularly squeamish with anything much, but it looked, wow, barbaric actually, is probably the word I would
Had
use.
it just been done? Had those brows just been done?
How soon is emergency? Like, are they literally going into
Yeah.
open with laser?
Less than 48 hours old.
Wow. That's there,
Oh
isn't it?
no.
I've actually had a client only the other day actually who's come to me for some removal, and she showed me a picture where somebody had done fresh work on her botched brows and then not gone over the bit that was botched, but in the same session then lasered the bit that was botched on the same day. And she was really worried about coming for removal to me because her eyes had swelled after that, surprisingly, all that trauma. So she's panicking now that whatever I do is going to cause the same. So I've had to obviously spend a lot of time educating her that that was not the best way of doing it.
One more question you've just said about the swollen eyes. I know with Botched Ink, we go on quite a lot in training about sometimes your eyes can swell the next day.
I've
Be a
never
bit
had,
swollen the next day.
no, never had that
Not me neither. No.
Mine do, but I swell with everything. I swell when I have my eyeliner done, when I have my eyebrows done, when I do removal on my eyes. My eyes.
How about clearly triggering a pigment reaction to the old pigment? Now I know that can happen with anybody.
Yeah.
You might not see it very often. But again, with laser, how does a client, you know, when clients want to put makeup on the area too soon, when clients want to go out in the sun or put, you know, face creams on and sun creams on after a laser, what's the skin like after a laser? A proper nice, like how it should be done laser.
A bit warm and a bit pink in the first few hours with the frosting, and then that should just go really. Mild puffiness at the absolute most.
Yeah.
Like you've had a heavy sleep type puffiness, not golden.
Yeah. So is the skin broken?
Can be in places. You can have pinprick bleeding. So I would not want a client to be putting anything on their brows because they're open to infection. I just treat it the same as I would a Botched Ink, and I tell them, look, this is an open wound. Please treat it like one, because you don't want your client to then walk out and sort of be putting stuff in there and giving themselves an infection.
Yeah. So thank you. So Ruth, do you want to say what your Instagram page is if anyone wants to follow you?
Yes, it's at Ruby Red Aesthetics.
Thank you. And Kelly?
It's at Kelly Louise Aesthetics.
And Claire.
It's at Insensu PMU.
And we're at Botched Ink. Just I should have a Botched Ink sign behind me. Right, thank you so much. Thank you, Claire. Have a really good rest of the day. We're going to cut here now. Lisa, cut, finish. How good was that? I believe we're the only, and another first, non-laser removal brand who actively encourages discussions with laser techs to help educate them on how we can combine treatments to offer clients the best results. Many clients think laser is one treatment and done. Laser is not quicker, in fact, it may be longer. However, the treatment time and price can be quicker and cheaper. Laser tattoo removal shatters pigment powder into smaller pieces, which over time absorb into the body, naturally reducing the visible tattoo. If eyebrows have had colour corrections over the years, there will be more red, yellow, white, orange and green pigment in there, which is a problem for laser. Botched Ink works on all colours. You still have the same downtime between sessions as you would for Botched Ink removal. Having too many removal sessions close together causes the skin to become tough, and you'd have more difficulty working on their skin if the client wants new brows. Unfortunately, some laser techs post the immediately after photo, claiming it as a result, but it's not true. What you're looking at is frosting, which laser causes during treatment. Frosting is the sudden heating of water in the skin, which temporarily clouds over the pigment. This lasts about 10 to 20 minutes, producing fantastic photos, but the tattoo will be back once the frosting has subsided. Technicians showing these frosting photos as results cause everyone else issues and give clients unrealistic expectations of their own removal results. We all need to be honest with how we achieve and remove to prevent. We all need to be honest with how we achieve the removal to prevent further disappointment and clients potentially not working with us because we can't promise the same results they've seen. Laser techs use a patch test to select the most appropriate settings for their machine. When the client returns for a treatment, seeing the healed results allows the tech to select the lowest setting to give the best results and preserve skin quality. Brows may look dark, but the patch test can reveal orange, red and yellow pigments hidden in the visible black pigment. Laser removes black first and the other colours are removed in future sessions if the laser tech has the right filter for their machine. Red can be very stubborn to remove with laser. Many shades of orange, green and yellow are very hard or impossible for laser to remove. We are seeing clients visiting for Botched Ink treatments who've had a laser patch test which revealed red. The client wasn't happy to have red brows during the removal process, and using Botched Ink avoids this problem as we can remove all colours each treatment. Laser removal colours. The 1064 laser filter can remove black or dark pigments. The 532 filter is needed to remove red and orange, but it can't remove yellow. White needs to be flipped dark first, then it can be treated with a 1064 in a future session. Green is the hardest to remove and so is blue. Special filters are needed. Showing you a sample pigment blend and seeing the colours that make up shades of brown pigment help clients and techs clearly see the problems for laser when removing colours. We're seeing a growing number of clients left with yellow brows after laser removal. The bright neon yellow, often used in pigments, is impossible for laser to remove. Botched ink can still be used to improve the colour, however, 2 to 3 sessions will be needed to get the pigment moving back towards the surface and released from any scar tissue. You're advised to work with a bit more purpose on the area, dense needling and potentially deeper than normal. And some more information, laser for emergency tattoo removal. I mean, yikes, don't do it. Laser heating and shattering fresh pigment in an open wound would be very painful for the client during and after the treatment. Much better to offer botched ink to quickly dry out and remove much of the unwanted pigment. Time between sessions, the longer left between sessions, the more pigment the body naturally absorbs. Sessions too close together and scar tissue is likely to form around the pigment, sealing it in. New brows after laser, same as with botched ink, leave at least 4 months for the skin to fully settle. Combining removal treatments. If you're not a laser tech or don't personally know a laser tech who successfully works with cosmetic tattoo pigments, then always you must continue with botched ink treatments. If you start to discuss laser with your client, it's very difficult if you then need to send them out to the open market and find a laser tech when less than 5% offer cosmetic tattoo removal. Always botched ink first, removing all the colours at the same time, including red, orange, green and yellow, which laser has difficulty with. Use laser to help finish off once mainly black pigment remains, as black is the easiest for laser to remove. Botched ink improves any scar tissue and floats pigment towards the surface, making laser have a much easier job to see and remove it. It's much easier using botched ink first than dealing with a client who's got red or yellow brows from laser removal and then going in with botched ink. Botched ink will still work after laser, but we're now dealing with shattered and deeper pigment than we would have before laser removal. A friendly laser tech who understands the value of both treatments is a great asset to your removal business. However, be aware that a less than friendly laser tech will take credit for the removal. I learnt this firsthand with one of my very first botched ink models back in 2018. A laser tech who only has a 1064 head for their machine cannot remove red or any of the lighter colours, and they can only remove black and the dark pigments. Make sure they have experience with working with PMU pigments. Most body tattoo removal specialists do not understand cosmetic tattoo pigments, and they're less likely to understand working with brown. Ask when they trained in laser, and was there any specific training on cosmetic tattoo pigments? Do they have any results photos? Do they offer a client a patch test? This is crucial as explained above. Do clients understand that? Do their clients blister after laser removal? Blistering is caused by the settings being too high. Laser can get results with low settings, gently increasing only if it's needed.